Alright, we need to have ourselves a little conversation on these two games, because while a new one is on the way, I do feel like comparing these two and looking back at our past, in hopes that Rockstar will make the right decision in the next release. Now, there's been a couple of videos that have done this same thing, but I don't think they were saying enough. So let's get into this.
Alright, so first off, I apologize for the crap quality, but I wasn't willing to rebuy GTA 5 for the Xbone, which pretty much tells you how I feel about the game. I'm not going to get into the stories in this or the DirectX issues because it's the 360 version of the game. I'm just simply going to dive into the gameplay aspects, which I couldn't stand. Mainly, the driving in 5. It's shit. Hopefully the YouTube gods will let this little clip of Bob Seger go and not mute my video. Anyway, it's shit, but not in the sense that it's hard. No, in the sense that it's way too damn easy. Here, quick comparison right off the bat. Look at the sway in 5. There's no weight on this 1970s Olds/Buick morphed car, the Sabre. Barely any weight. Barely having to try in this little sway test I do in the beginning. And if I go around, which I will, driving around the whole city, you'll see that I'm stopping and hugging corners so tightly, and it's the same with other cars too. It's not realistic in any sense. Alright, so now let's compare it to GTA 4. Same car, back and forward, back and forward. As you can see, it starts to graduate with the weight. You can actually see the weight of the car shifting. You have to remember that these are heavy cars. This is like a 3,600 pound brute going down the road with a big V8 in the front and a light rear end. And if you compare this to some of the road and track videos of the past of this car, some of the vintage American automotive literature, if you will, you can see that the Olds kind of behaves the same way. Just look up the old 442, 1970, I believe there's a video out there of it. You can see it behaving just like this. If anything, it actually slides further. Now, the reason I'm kind of spurging out about this is because the community, the Rockstar community, got together and started panicking and freaking out that they couldn't drive and complaining to Rockstar on whatever forums or Reddit or whatever, complaining that they couldn't drive in this game, rather than just take the time to practice and get good at the game and then have the reward of, say, having some counter steer on your car. They wanted to complain. And Rockstar obliged the complaints. I still, to this day, cannot stand thinking about those comments. Jesus! You'd think that my whole front end would be torn up after seeing my car's back do that. And I don't want the whole damn video to be about the driving, but it's just so damn bad. It's plastic as all hell. It's like little kids playing with fucking Hot Wheels. I mean, I'm going over this shit, and I know it's Grand Theft Auto. You don't have to remind me it's Grand Theft Auto. I know that some things in video games are forgivable, okay? I know that. I know that having your entire car totaled after one accident sucks dick. But look at this! Look at this! It didn't do anything, really. The car's barely even smashed. It looks like if you just drive to the auto parts store and stick a couple bulbs in there, you're gonna be okay. And here's another thing. I'm way out of control here on this shit. I'm going down the hill, full throttling and stuff, and yeah, I lost the road a little bit. I gotta admit, I'm having a little bit of trouble warming back up to my driving in this game because it's been quite a long time since I touched it. I keep on trying to counter steer at every intersection and trying to brake ahead of time, anticipating a heavy car, and then I get this denial, like what just happened right there. A freaking denial of my drift. Here we do again. Oh, look at that. I don't even need the slide because it's like the car doesn't even really need to slide in this game. You can get a slide. See, I just got one right there. But sliding in this game is extremely unbeneficial. It's just for being cool. I mean, that's really all it is. And, you know, there is some truth to that. You don't really need to drift to be fast in a car. It's actually better to keep your traction and make a good apex turn. But look at this shit. And the physics. The physics. I mean, okay, apparently I just killed this guy. He's dead. So you'd expect his car to be all completely smashed in. You'd expect both of us to have front ends, but look at how far it is in. It's not very far. From this angle, you can't even tell. Both of these cars don't look like they were in an accident that got one of the drivers killed. And I know that Grand Theft Auto 4 doesn't necessarily pull this off either. There's definitely more that could have been done, but that's my point. That's forgivable in 2008. GTA 4 had introduced us to the soft body damage, and these were good aspects to bring into the game. They hadn't fully developed them yet, and I felt like they did a fairly good job with what they had. But this game, this is supposed to be a new game. This is supposed to be current, and yet it feels like I'm playing something from last gen. Well, I am playing something technically from last gen, but you know what I mean. It feels like I'm playing something older than Grand Theft Auto 4. This feels like San Andreas. And I have nothing wrong with San Andreas. I played the hell out of San Andreas, man. That game came out, I was a freaking mid-teenager. I loved that game. I played it to hell and back, man. But here's the thing about San Andreas. Eventually, you gotta get better than these arcade driving physics. Now, when I first got GTA 4, I wasn't good at the game. I sucked really bad at driving, and I almost had the same reaction the fans were having. But I gave it a couple weeks. And before I knew it, I was driving way freaking better than I thought I could. I didn't realize I could actually get good at driving in that game. In this game, I make a drift, and you almost don't even need to countersteer, and it's ridiculous. I mean, look at this. That looked like a really cool drift, right? Yeah, it was a cool drift, but the whole time I barely needed to countersteer. And that urge to countersteer, to recover yourself in a slide, is there because that's how it actually is when you're in a slide in a heavy car, especially one with an old suspension. It missing from the footprint of the game, from the playing of the game, it's such a naked and cheap feeling. I don't understand how else to put it in words. It's just not right. If I steal a car and I smash it into a pillar at 40 miles an hour, it should do a decent amount of damage to the front of the car. As you can see here, it has. And as I mentioned earlier, Grand Theft Auto 4 actually could have done more. Honestly, I don't blame them for not doing more. After all, again, they're both old games, and there are some things that can be forgiven. But still, what 5 did, taking away the soft body physics of the car, or even the soft body, ragdoll physics of the pedestrians. That's another problem I have with the game. Again, a physics-related issue. But look at this. Ooh, I smashed the shit out of that cop, and look at the front end. I mean, it's not totally folded in, but when you hit shit in this game, and when it rolls over and stuff, it actually feels like a heavy car just got hit by another heavy car, and the force was enough to flip it. Like, it's actually satisfying. Cars in this game have weight. Weight is a challenge, and this seems to be something that people complained about. I don't understand it. For me, getting a successful drift in a game like this, that's a little piece of challenge. That's a reward. You get good at driving in this game, and you are rewarded with the feeling of controlling a very heavy vehicle in a fictional universe. Look at that. Look at that accident. Compare that to the shit that I just showed you earlier. Let me guess. Not quick enough. Here. Still not that effective on the damage. There's no comparison. When it comes to the physics, the damage, the weight, the challenge, 4 is better. I'll give 5 one thing. I did enjoy the multiplayer. Me and my cousin had hours of trolling people online, and that was actually fun. Until Rockstar came along and took away my infinite money. Challenges are not a bad thing. Failing a few times is not a reason to throw a damn fit to the devs and then shit in the pool for the rest of us. Complaining about GTA 4's driving because you aren't good at it. Man, I challenge you to try your hand at Mafia 2's driving. You thought GTA 4 was hard? Try skid turning in the Walter Hot Rod. Of course, the Mafia series also suffered these same issues with the third installment of their game, but for a time, driving in the series was intense, and the consequences for Vito basically were death if you crashed in anything at 100 miles per hour, sometimes even a little less. This makes for a crazy thrill ride, and because of that, the stakes are high. I feel like this shouldn't be something I have to point out. Alright, so we're gonna have to talk a little bit about the shooting as well, which is also related to physics. But, you know, this is for the naysayer that says, well, Grand Theft Auto shouldn't be just about driving, it's about shooting and looting. Okay, so I'm shooting, and none of what I just did there really looked all that great. It's more believable than some games, but not more believable than the game that came before this. Grand Theft Auto 4's shooting is definitely superior to this. This game was so fun that I turned the auto aim off so that I actually had to aim. And yeah, when you shoot somebody, it actually looks like a bullet is hitting a bag of meat and bones. I really don't have to say much else. You just kind of, well, watch. Also, the game is called Grand Theft Auto, so it is about the cars. Auto. It's in the name. When it comes to both games, I had my share of fun. Multiplayer, like I said, in 5 was a blast. But I had almost the same amount of fun in the years prior just messing around on this game. Like, yeah, it wasn't as great for the multiplayer, but just in single-player mode alone, story mode, I had a ton of fun just messing around. And that's not something that I did in GTA 5 too often. In fact, I even had a crazy warm-down, you know, you have a warm-up? Yeah, I had a crazy warm-down schedule of going back to this game just so that my driving wouldn't die. I would go back to this game after playing that game for hours, for about a 15-minute break, just to make sure that I didn't lose my driving skills in the previous game. And this isn't something that I should have to do. Like, I should be happy to play the next game. And yet I found myself coming back here all the time, just to make sure that everything was still squared away with the skills that actually mattered to me. You had soft body damage, and you threw it away. You had great sliding physics, and you threw them away. You had awesome potential for weight distribution for accidents with those soft body damage physics, and you threw them away. What the hell is wrong with you people? And you know, I hope that Rockstar has learned from this. I hope that the fan base has grown up enough to realize where they were stupid. I really hope that in the next game we get a little bit of this back, or maybe some more development on it. Because, sure, there were issues with Grand Theft Auto 4. Yeah, you couldn't customize cars, and that was lame. But I would still take all of the gameplay features this offered over customization. I really would. Though I don't see why you can't have both now, with the processing capabilities. And Rockstar should improve on things. There's definitely some things to improve on. For instance, they could take a page out of Mafia 2's book here with the gear induction that you feel. When you let off the throttle at the 120 plus miles per hour on a lot of these cars, or any of the cars at their top speed, when you let off the throttle, you can feel the RPMs of the engine instantly drop down, just like in a real car. You can actually feel the torque and power, and that's one thing that none of the Grand Theft Autos really have pulled off yet. So, was there anything else that I liked from GTA 5 besides the multiplayer? Anything else? Yeah, I did like the planes. It did suck not having planes in GTA 4. And I felt they implemented them very well in this game. I also liked the music selection. It was better than 4's, I'll admit that. But when it comes to the map, I'm kind of so-so. I prefer the old San Andreas map, the 3D universe, to this one. So, enough time has passed, and this game is old enough now that I feel I can point some of this out without catching all the flack. Hopefully we can close the chapter on the arcade driving and get back to the more realistic approach behind the wheel, as well as the physics, and maybe even make some improvements. But if not, I know one game that's always going to be there. And honestly, this last playthrough, I've been having a lot more fun than the first time I went through. Grand Theft Auto 4 has aged quite well. So, whatever happens in the next game, it's not going to affect this instant classic.